That's very true. Hello and welcome back to the latest edition of the Aperture Electric. There's Fran and I'm Rich. How are you, bud?
I'm not too bad, mate. You?
Yeah, very good. Very good. It's Friday. What more can you ask for? A weekend of football, loads of interesting subplots and stories going on. So, very excited. I suppose the only place where we can start, and I'm just going to ask you the question directly, is Arne Slot at risk of being fired?
First of all, what more can you ask for? I just want my team to win. That'd be nice.
Yeah,
Fed up of
well,
seeing draws
steady,
and losses. That'd be quite nice.
steady.
But yeah, on a slot. I tried to put something on Twitter, didn't get a response, unfortunately, because I just wanted to gauge the Liverpool fans to see if they thought he was under pressure. I personally think he's under pressure. Like, Villa haven't been great, but do you think they're going to beat Villa? I wouldn't be putting any money. They're not going in my £5 challenge or anything. Like, he's got to be under pressure. But then I saw a report saying that they're on about talking about a new contract for him, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. I know he's won the league and he's got loads of credit in the bank, but they look dreadful.
The thing that started to worry me, and I said this to my son a couple of times, and I don't think he was happy, but with all the money they've spent, the squad looks weak to me. The squad looks really weak to me. No depth, no coverage. A couple of players out of form. It just looks like a very, very weak squad.
I think especially when you look at the games recently, they've obviously been chasing a lot of games. And you look on the bench and you go, we need to change the game here. And the only option they've got is Chiesa. And I think he's been really good this season. Actually, I think he has been a good option. But he's literally the only one on the bench, really. They haven't got a lot of other players who you can sling on and try and change a game. They have been changing fullbacks and Curtis Jones and other players like that. None of them are really going to change a game for you. So, yeah, I think they do look weaker, don't they? I think the Trent Alexander-Arnold transfer has had more of an impact than what people think. He quite clearly now, obviously with the stats previously, assists and stuff like that, but everything came from Trent. And I think now you've taken him out, they are very, very light in the creativity department.
Well, and then you're moving Slide back to right back quite often. Gravenberch being injured hasn't helped either. But yeah, I mean, it was no surprise that Crystal Palace knocked them out of the cup midweek. And the team that he put out, because at the moment, what else can Liverpool win right now? Like, obviously, they can still win everything, of course, mathematically. But as it is currently, they're on track to win nothing, aren't they?
They are. And would you be putting any of your hard-earned cash on them winning anything? So even the Champions League,
No chance.
They've got history in that, but they can't stop conceding goals is the thing that I keep coming back to. Last season, they didn't concede chances. It was very rare that teams even looked to get on top of Liverpool. Now, Liverpool have become a counter-attacking team because they're under so much pressure. Brentford battered them, for being honest.
Great game, by the way. Loved the
It was
game.
a great game.
Great game. One of my favourite games of the season. And then everyone's been moaning about the 8 o'clock Saturday kickoffs. But luckily, the kids were out at a party, so I had to sort of had a bit of a free run at the telly, so watched it. What a great game of football! Loved every second. The drama, even the referee pulling his hamstring at half time after playing long enough in the first half for Liverpool to get a goal back. I just thought it was a brilliant spectacle.
It was a great game, and I was really impressed with the way that Brentford played. Our last title of our pod was "What a Job Keith Andrews is doing." I think I might just have to copy and paste, to be honest, because he's doing a superb job there. But Liverpool, again, I come back to, are Brentford just a really good team, or are Liverpool poor? And I keep thinking Liverpool are poor.
Well, it's funny. It appears that people have worked them out, right? What we need to do is play with a low block with a quick transition, and there's not a better team in the country set up to do that than Brentford. Really, that's how they've played for a long time. And I thought Damsgaard looked phenomenal. That pass for the second goal was just
vision.
But just to see it is one thing, but then to be able to deliver it, like just literally, didn't have to break stride. I thought that was pass of the season. I don't know if there is an assist of the season competition, but if there is, and that doesn't win it, I'd love to see what the next one is because that was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was unbelievable vision, wasn't it? The weight of the pass, everything was just perfect. They've got some players just quietly building there, haven't they? That Sharda who came in, I think it might have been 2 years ago now, starting to hit his straps. He looks a really good player. They've got some, the forward as well, just come in and replaced Ivan Toney, hasn't he? No nonsense, big, strong forward, very similar style.
Listen, when you add Ivan Toney to the Brian and Buemo, Jan Visser misses, and as you said last week, Norgard, the goalkeeper, Ben Mee, a leader. Whether you think Ben Mee's Premier, he was a leader around the place. It's absolutely unbelievable what they've done. Phenomenal so far, and long may it continue as well. By the way.
Chuck in the right back as well. Is it Kayade? What a find he looks. He looks phenomenal.
Yeah, I love those kind of players that become like a what's the word? What's the word when you're not supposed to be like one of the favourite players, but not an unsung hero. What's like a cult hero? No, I don't know.
Cult hero, yeah, it's sort of like a cult hero. But they just get signed as squad players and then end up being one of your best players. But it's all through attitude and hard work, isn't it? He looks phenomenal.
Yeah, I think they must have been singing his song for about 30 minutes non-stop. He's just literally going for it round and round and round. So, a lovely long throw as well, which is always important these days. I do think that if you've got a young kid out there now, teach them how to take a throw on early doors because it's going to be a skill that's going to be needed as they go through the process. Right, we're on a time limit again, Fran. So apologies, our diaries are getting very busy, but so we need to rattle through this week's. But before we do that, how did we get on last week? Do you know? Did we? I don't think there's anything to shout about, is it?
You did better than me. You got 5 and I got 3 with a correct result. So not the best. We lost our £5 challenges and we lost our bankers as well.
Well, yeah. I mean, both Man City were both for mine, weren't they? So obviously losing killed both.
Yeah, and
Uh,
I had
Liverpool.
Liverpool, and that did me. The one that did come in again though, the AI bet, Arsenal under 4.5. I haven't done one for today because my gut feeling is that it's going to pull Arsenal and under 4.5 goals again, which we may as well just keep putting that on every single week because they're winning most weeks with 1-0. You could probably even go braver and go under 2.5 goals, couldn't you, to get better prices? But it keeps pulling out Arsenal and under 4.5 as an AI bet, which I don't think it's particularly imaginative, but it seems to be working. So that's another one we've got in.
Well, I would also say that you could add Arsenal to nil because they didn't concede a goal in the whole of October. Uh,
Mm.
I think that's 6 games on the spin that they've not conceded a goal. Now, obviously, 6 out of 8 is obviously not going to win all of the time, but if that's a high enough odds to make it that feels like a financially vibe because I just don't see teams breaking them down, mate. They are so solid.
So
Like,
solid. Yeah, the only risk is that they go and say, as an example, against Burnley this week, they might go and pump them 4-5-0 and you might lose your bet. But they don't seem to be that destructive in front of goal, but defensively, rock solid.
yeah, they're on track to beat Chelsea's lowest ever goals conceded,
Mm.
and it wouldn't surprise me if they got there. They're very good. Uh, but let's start as we should do because there's no early kickoff again. So we wait till 3 o'clock kickoff where Brighton and Hove Albion host Leeds United. Now this doesn't feel quite as a sort of a scary game for either team as it might have been. Obviously Leeds uh, not flying high in the Sunderland sense, but flying high in their 15th and doing all right. And whatever happens at the weekend, they can't go any lower really. In terms of they're not going to be in the bottom three, and they're only 1 point behind Brighton. So great start for Leeds. Not a terrible start for Brighton. How do you see this one going? What do you think?
I think this is a really tough game, if I'm being honest. I thought Brighton would put up more of a game against Man United. So again, it brings me back to the Fulham of last season, where win one, lose one, and a good one week, bad in the next week. I think at home it's a different proposition. I think will beat Leeds at home. Again, Leeds at home and away, two completely different teams, aren't they? I can just see Brighton probably having a bit too much for Leeds, so I've gone for 2-1 Brighton.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything you've said there. To be honest, mate, I think we are absolutely on the same page. The only thing that I might differ on is I think it might be a little bit higher scoring than that. I can see this being Brighton 3, Leeds United 1, but that's no indictment of where Leeds are. I just think that at home Brighton, are a solid team, and Leeds are better at home, and that's fine too, right? And if they can keep their home form going,
Yeah.
that would be more than enough to. So, it's interesting. I read this morning that Gary Neville was predicting that Arsenal will win the Premier League with 80 points. 80 points he thinks will be enough to win the league, which is the lowest since 95, 96. It's interesting because at the other end of the table, I think actually there could be 3 of the lowest total points going down as well. If you look at kind of those teams down the bottom,
Mm.
they don't seem to be picking up many points. So actually, Leeds can get to 33, 34 points. That might actually be enough to see them stay up this season.
Well, like you said, I mean, I don't believe that's going to be the case with Arsenal, by the way. I can see them getting a lot more than that. I think they're
Yeah,
miles better than,
no,
yeah,
yeah,
most.
he's saying that's all they need to win, not that that's what they're going to
Yeah.
get. That's all they
Okay.
would need.
Yeah, I was going to say that seems really low to me. I think they're miles better than everyone at the minute. But on the other side, like you said, there's going to be a couple of teams that look like they could. I mean, I don't know about you. I think Wolves could possibly break that Southampton, the Derby record, so that Southampton nearly came close to last season. The way it's going, Wolves are getting battered every single week. It doesn't look like they're ever going to pick up a win. So there could be record points down the bottom, but I think that's sort of mid, sort of 14th, 15th, just above the relegation zone. I think they'll be so far clear, very similar to last year, really. Going to get to a point where they're going to be so far clear, and that the relegation piece will be done soon. I think
Yeah, I think you could
there'll
argue
be
that.
one place available for relegation. There'll be a bit of a fight between a few teams, but I think Wolves and West Ham to me look pretty much done.
Yeah, if we're not careful, this could be a very dull season, couldn't it? Because I can't see anyone past. We're 9 games in, and if anybody catches Arsenal, I'll be absolutely flabbergasted. And like you say, two of the bottom three seem to be there or thereabouts. So yeah, uh, but we both think that Brighton are going to be relatively comfortable at home to Leeds at 3 o'clock. We move up north to Burnley, who host Arsenal, so we know where we're going. It's really just a case of picking the score. So you said under 4.5 is AI. How close to that 4.5 do you think they'll get?
I've gone Burnley nil, Arsenal 2. I think Burnley will put up a fight. They're full of confidence at the minute. I think they will put up a fight. I don't think they're going to have a lot going forwards. Arsenal will be comfortable defensively, but I think Burnley defensively are pretty solid. They know what they're doing defensively, so I think they'll put up a fight probably for 60 minutes, 0-0, and then Arsenal just at the back end of the second half will probably get a couple of goals.
Yeah, I mean that was massive win for Burnley last week, right? But both in terms of the opposition, the way for them to go ahead to then be pegged back to then go and score that last minute winner. Back to back wins for Burnley, which takes them out of the bottom three. They're on 10 points. Already 6 points ahead of West Ham, 5 points ahead of Nottingham Forest. And by the way, Fulham are sleepwalking themselves into a problem here with 4 defeats on the spin and sort of tower spinning. But again, playing Wolves this weekend comes at the right time, which we'll come on to. So for me, this isn't Burnley's. This is a free hit for Burnley. They are not expected to get anything against Arsenal at all. But you won the 3 points you needed to last week. Last week's was massive. They've got a free hit at it this week. However, I still believe that it will be comfortable Arsenal, and I'm going to go for 3-0. I don't know why I've got a feeling there's going to be goals in the water this weekend, mate. I've got a good feeling about this weekend. So 3-0. A really, really interesting and intriguing game at Selhurst Park. Crystal Palace host Brentford. We've picked up Brentford. Obviously Crystal Palace dismantling Liverpool again midweek. Pina's looking like a player. I know you like him a lot. Ismail Sarr is starting to get back into the goals again. Defensively, they look sound. This tactically and stylistically could be a very interesting game, couldn't it?
I think it's got the potential to be a great game. I have sat on the fence with my prediction, but the more we talk about it, the more I think this could be like 3-3. Which I'm actually now going to change my prediction. I'm going to go big with 3-3 because both teams do like to go forwards. I thought Brentford defensively, even though they conceded 2 against Liverpool, were really good. Palace, on the other hand, I've always said I think they're the most underrated team in the league. However, defensively, they've been a very weak, but obviously picked up a win against Liverpool, which will do the confidence the world of good. So I'm going 3-3.
Okay, I'm going to go 3-2 to Palace. I just feel like Brentford have made some amazing steps and loving what they're doing. I just feel like Crystal Palace are further down their journey. They're a bit more set. They know, they've had a bit longer working with the manager. They've got some good options off the bench. Obviously, Mateta was rested. I don't think he's injured. I think Mateta was just rested midweek. Uh, I just think the Palace are going to be a little bit too street smart for Brentford. But I think it could be an absolute classic. I think it could be really entertaining. I can see goals flying in all over the place. Yeah, 3-2 Palace, but any result wouldn't surprise me in that game, to be honest with you.
No, I agree. I said it wouldn't surprise me if Brentford go and win 2-0. Wouldn't surprise me if Palace win 3-0. I think it's got possibly game of the game week written all over it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that could be very interesting. Whereas as we move across London, also at 3 o'clock, relegation 6 pointer. I don't think we would have believed we'd be saying that in the first weekend of November at the start of the season, where Fulham host Wolverhampton Wanderers. Uh, we both thought suggested that Wolves might be there or thereabouts, but Fulham have really surprised me with how quickly they've fallen off a cliff.
It doesn't surprise me with Fulham because, I mean, we said it last season, their squad just seemed stale. They haven't really invested in their squad. I think stale is a great way to look at it. I think that, the manager's the same, the players are the same, the fans' expectations are the same, and eventually you keep doing the same thing. The only way you're going is down. They haven't really had that injection of a couple of new players or a quality player come into the team. And if anything, they have lost, key players like João Palhinha over the years and just haven't really replaced them with the quality that's needed. So it doesn't surprise me to see them going down. But what I think you've said, I agree with, is how fast it's happened. But there's been teams in the past few years where you've got to heed the warning. Leicester, Southampton were mid-table Premier League clubs. And if you don't invest in your squad, you don't take care of it, there's only one way you're going. West Ham's another great example of that.
Do you think there's anything that could be possibly linked to the fact that the manager is whenever there's a managerial job available or coming up or even thinking about or rumoured, his name is almost automatically, doesn't matter who it is, like he's one of the. Do you think that at some point just catches up with you and actually, if you always think your manager's going to go, that actually you might end up sort of not buying into the principles because you're like, well, he's going to be gone soon anyway.
I, yes, I do think that can play a part, but I think the owners and the structure behind the scenes have got to ensure that that doesn't happen. Especially if you're the owner, if your club gets relegated, you lose 100 million off the value of it, and I don't even making that example up as,
Yeah, it's more
but
than that.
yeah, but Brighton would never do that. They always try to reinvest in the squad, and it might mean that they lose players for 100 million. They buy three or four, and three might not work, but he's never going to let that club sink to a level of not having it being invested in. Whereas you look at some of the other clubs around, and the owners just seem to be, tightening the purse strings, which I get. Obviously, you got this FFP; they might have the money, but if you don't invest in the squad, it's just going to go scale. It's going to go stale. There's only one way it's going from there. Like I said, look at the examples of teams around that have either been relegated or very, very close.
But if you're a Fulham fan, you'll be holding on to the fact that you're going to beat Wolves, and then Nottingham Forest are going to lose to Man United, and then you're 6 points clear of the bottom. You probably go above Burnley. You may even go level on points with Leeds and Everton, and all of a sudden you're back up to 13th, 14th, 15th, and it's not looking quite so worrying, right? That's got what Fulham as a club and as a fan base have got to be clinging on to this weekend.
So I have that prediction that Fulham will beat Wolves, but you said Fulham will beat Wolves, and it was said with certainty. I don't think it's as certain as a game, and I know you were just saying it as an example. It's not a certainty, is it? Like Fulham have looked really, in some games have looked really good, but generally have been really poor. Don't look like they're going to score goals. Which in Wolves' defence recently, they've been scoring goals. They've been conceding a lot, but they have been scoring goals. All it takes is them to get their defence sorted for one game, and they could go and beat Fulham. So I don't. And that's how poor Fulham are at the minute. I mean, I've gone Fulham 1, Wolves 0, but it wouldn't surprise me if Wolves beat Fulham or took a point off them.
Yeah, the second half of the Carabao Cup game, Wolves Chelsea in Tottenham, will give the Wolves fans hope, because obviously coming back into the game and really dominating that second half from start to finish, even before Chelsea had a man sent off. But like you, I think this will be slightly higher scoring, but I think it will be a home win. I'm going to go for 2-1 to Fulham. But Wolves are showing some signs of recovery for me, but whether they've got enough to actually go and win a game of football yet, I'm still not convinced. So, and you've got 1-0, right?
I've gone 1-0.
3 o'clock. I can't believe this is a 3 o'clock kickoff as well. Nottingham Forest host Manchester United. Sean Dyche back at the wheel. Man United on a roll. Interesting game, right, for both teams. This is one of those kind of where you feel like there could be a turning point in either season. Then Nottingham Forest will get the win. I can see them kicking on. They stop the Manchester United juggernaut. But if Man United get the win, all of a sudden they're starting to look up the table. They're starting to think of Champions League football. That will be a nice set of results put together. And actually, everything's looking positive, isn't it, if they get the win?
If Man United get the win and results go their way, they're second,
Mm.
which is just ridiculous. I don't think I didn't think I'd ever say this. Man United are my banker of the week. I'm going for it this week with them. The way that they've been playing recently, they just look to have hit a bit of form. Their forwards seem to be enjoying themselves now. They seem to. I think Bruno Fernandes had a word with Mbeumo and said, "Look, we brought you to score goals, not to pass it safe." And he has been doing that. Cunha looks to be the player that we thought he would go into United with a bit of arrogance. Just think they look like they've figured out what they need to do with the tactic. It's been tweaked a little bit. It's the change of formation that people have been saying. He's still playing the same formation, but it has been tweaked. Forest, I've been speaking to Forest fans and they say they're really poor at the minute, really poor. So I've gone Forest 1, Man United 3. So again, with that, I don't want to go Arsenal to be a banker. The 1-6, it's just too obvious. It's pointless. So I've gone for Man United with a bit of value.
Okay, I think this is Sean Dyche territory. This is when we're going to find out. You know, bear in mind, he didn't have a game midweek, so he's had a week with them. Can he put together a tactical, system that I don't think Nottingham Forest are going to win the game, but I'm going to go for a high scoring draw of 2-2. I don't think either team are going to quite have enough. I think there'll be chances, but I can see this one being another entertaining. The 3 o'clock kickoffs on Saturday. Actually, there's some really interesting games in there. Uh,
I think the keeper's made a massive difference to United.
yeah, yeah. But Anana's doing great things in Turkey as well, right? But so maybe the referees have put some money on him to. That's obviously a topical joke about Turkish referees and gambling. We won't go down that route. Speak to our lawyers if you want to pick us up on it. You're the ones that have been doing it. We move to the 5:30 kickoff. Tottenham Hotspur host Chelsea in what feels like the biannual giving of 3 points to Chelsea whenever they play Spurs. They run around for 90 minutes and Chelsea end up with 3 points. So I don't know if you've got anything. Chelsea just seems to have Tottenham in their pocket. Any chance of Tottenham? I mean, they are stinking the place out at the moment. Terrible against Newcastle. I mean, not a great performance against Everton, but somehow managed to score 3 goals. Can you give Tottenham a chance of winning against Chelsea?
It's funny you say that, isn't it? Tottenham are third and Chelsea are
Ah,
none. But I was messaging you. I watched Newcastle Spurs in the cup. Yes, it's a cup game. Newcastle were head and shoulders above Spurs. Spurs didn't look like scoring. It looked like they went there for a point. Obviously, it's a cup game. They went there to draw. Um, I thought they did look really poor going forwards. They lacked to have any firepower from the wings, any pace running at people. Brennan Johnson is not the answer. I've gone Spurs 0, Chelsea 2. I mean, very nearly went for this as a banker. I just sort of left it out because it is a derby and you sort of don't know what could happen. But I think it's an easy win for Chelsea.
yeah, obviously Spurs have picked up another injury. Archie Gray's out for 4 weeks. They rested Van de Ven. Kudos was left off the bench. So in terms of the team, there will be some changes, but Spurs are desperately missing their players. Kulusevski, Madison, and Solanke back in that team would make a massive difference. And until they're back, they are toothless, boring. The difference between what Arsenal are doing, not playing attractive football, and what Tottenham are doing is Arsenal are just dominant, whereas Spurs, at home they're almost a guaranteed loss, and away they're a guaranteed win. But so yeah, for me, Tottenham 1, Chelsea 3, be over very quickly, very early that game. And I'll be looking personally to see what the German or the Italian football is on, because I don't really fancy watching Tottenham anymore this season. Although I probably will, if the family allows, tune in at 8 o'clock to Liverpool versus Aston Villa, because I think this could be a real ding dong of a game. Aston Villa have hit some rich vein of form. Again, we talk about teams that could finish in the top, 1, 2, 3. Villa somehow are back in that mix in terms of, they get the win 18 points, could take them, it won't, but it could take them second, but certainly back in the mix for top 4. An unbelievable turnaround. I mean, they're almost the complete opposite of Fulham, aren't they, in terms of Villa started badly, they're now kicking on. And I can see them getting something out of this game.
I've gone for Liverpool 1, Villa 2. How Villa are being priced at 7-2, you tell me. Just coming off the back of a win against Man City, I thought looked really, really good. How they're that price against the Liverpool team? What are they 6? Is it 6 games losses in a row? Something like that. It's
6 or 7,
obviously
6 or 7.
yeah. Like how they can be priced at that price, I don't know. Like I very nearly went Villa to be a banker, thinking that's unbelievable value. But yeah, madness price. I think there's some good price away team prices. Look around Newcastle, a good price. Chelsea, good price. Villa, stick them in an and if they all come in, you're laughing. But madness. Villa, Liverpool 1, Villa 2 for me.
Yeah, again, let's not forget that Villa have played in the last, after the Liverpool game, they played Spurs away, Man City at home, Liverpool away. You would be thinking that'd be on paper at the time 3 defeats. If they come out with 9 points, they have to be seriously back in the talking point for Champions League football. and you'd have to argue possibly the second best form team in the country after Arsenal. And it's interesting because Villa are scoring different types of goals from different people. Like historically it would be Ollie Watkins, but they're chipping in from all different positions, different angles. Obviously, Matty Cash scoring a left-footed outside of the box goal at the weekend against Man City.
Unbelievable finish that was. That didn't get spoken about enough. He controlled that so well. He's running across his body, running away from goal. Great finish.
Yeah, I am going to go though for another 2-2 draw. Uh, but I agree with you. I think that at that value, if I was putting anything on, I'd be going Aston Villa because I think that's crazy numbers. Now we move to Sunday. Only 2 games on Sunday, which I don't mind. A bit of clarity, a bit of focus on the games, and no clues for guessing. The next game contains my banker of the week. West Ham United host Newcastle United in the Battle of the Uniteds, 2 o'clock at the London Stadium. How do you see this one?
I see this as very comfortable. West Ham 0, Newcastle 2. I only went for United as my bank because it's just a bit better price. I've got to stay away from that because I am in the negative, but I need to try and claw it back. That's why I'm going that way. But Newcastle, absolute certainty to beat West Ham. West Ham are absolute dog poo.
What do you really feel about them? Yeah, look, yeah. I mean, this is going to be. It feels like men versus boys. Like you touched on a minute ago. Newcastle out muscled, outperformed Tottenham. And they'll comfortably do that at the weekend against West Ham. There's no chance in the. I think I messaged you this. But I can see this season being the first season that a Premier League club has 4 managers. I say I've got no stats to prove that's not been done before. I don't remember it being done before, but I can see Nuno getting the chop in the not too distant future because the way he's talking, the way he's coming out is so negative.
Well, it's like he's almost taken everything that was happening around Forest straight into because of the Newcastle job, the West Ham job. And he is negative, but the problem I think you have with that is when you have just come out of a negative situation, it is very hard to transfer your mindset, especially when you come into a role like West Ham where the fans are upset, they hate the owner, they want the owner out, they're not happy about the stadium, they've got various problems. He's almost just dropped himself in, and it is the norm for them. Like any positivity he did have would have been sapped away from him within a week.
Yeah, yeah, I'm very surprised by the tone of what he's talking about, and I'm very surprised, and I thought actually it made sense. Uh, but I don't know where West Ham would go from here, and there's noise coming out that they're going to back him in January, but on the other hand, there's people talking they've got to sell to buy. It must be a pretty dark place right now being a West Ham fan, not knowing where the joy is going to come from.
If we're being honest, though, teams like Wolves, West Ham of late, once you start on that spiral, if you don't invest, and West Ham have invested, it seems just poorly, but if you don't invest, into the infrastructure, into the fans, especially if the fans are negative, you're not going to start performing. So it's been coming for a few of these teams. I said they were very fortunate. The teams last season that came up were dreadful because Wolves ended up pulling away at the end of the season, but it's been coming, hasn't it? A few of these teams have been neglected. Everton are very fortunate that they've had reinvestment and new managers are coming because they were going down the same path.
Yeah, no, completely agree, mate. I think this for me can only be an away win. It's my bank of the week. I'm going 3-0.
Yeah, I think that game to me, Newcastle could be one for our triple threat bet that I've been doing and raking it in, to win most shots and most corners. I can't see how Newcastle don't win that bet. I think it's an absolute banker.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what that return is on that one because, like you say, that would be a good shout.
Well, so I did it for the Brentford game against them, which I was a bit like, a bit 50-50 on it, and it was something like 20-1.
Yeah,
And I had to turn around, and they were about 20 shots up and 7 corners up, and it steamed and it flew in. But that's how poor West Ham are. And it's at home you get the away team like Newcastle who do attack. I can't see how it doesn't come in.
I agree. But that's we've been made fools on this one many times in the past, mate. But yes, no, I completely agree. We moved to 4:30. Manchester City host Bournemouth in what will be a very interesting game again. Man City have to win this game. Bournemouth will see it as a free. I keep using the phrase free hit because for them you don't expect to win, but with the way they're playing, again, another one of those games. It's a bit of a cop out, but I can see any of the three results happening. But at home, you've got to probably give the edge to City.
I'm giving the edge to City, but I've put Bournemouth in one of my free bet, get £2.50 with Sky in my freeze. There's something like 13-2,
Yes.
6.5-1. Thinking if they score first, freeze them. I think they're an unbelievable price. We just mentioned that it's a free hit for them. It sort of is when you say the teams out loud, but Bournemouth is second. Like there's a real possibility they could disrupt the top four this season. And I don't say that lightly. There's some teams that really look poor. Bournemouth just seem to be going from strength to strength. If they can get to January in a good position and invest in a few more players to get them over the line, they've got a real chance. So
Well,
actually, it's almost a game. It's a game that they just don't want to lose. Like I'm sure they'd snap your hand off for a point now. But
yeah,
I think it's got goals all over it for me.
yeah. The thing with Bournemouth is that Semenya, there's going to be teams that apparently there's a release clause in his contract. Whether you can get him out in January or not but there's going to be teams that try.
Mm.
For me, Bournemouth, you're right that they have to have a game plan for attracting new players, but they've also got to keep the ones they've got, and that's going to be the difficulty for them.
Mm.
Uh, and for me, I think that they are doing that well that they could lose to Manchester City and still absolutely be in the conversation to disrupt the top four. This won't define their season, but I would expect them to at least get a goal. And so if I was, if you're looking for me to give you like an absolute, for me, this would be over 2.5 goals would be my absolute cert. Uh, but I'm going to go for Manchester City 2, Bournemouth 1.
I've got Man City 3, Bournemouth 2.
Yeah, I was tempted, but I think 5 goals is probably pushing it. And when we talk about teams that are going to disrupt or could disrupt the top four, we've got to seriously start taking Sunderland as one of those teams. Obviously, a fantastic result away at Chelsea last weekend. They host an up and down Everton. Can't believe I'm saying this out loud, but Sunderland are heavy favourites to win that game, right?
Yeah. You have to say that they are the way that they're playing. They look brilliant. Some of the goals they've scored as well. I just go back to the recruitment. We're going to say it every single week. They had a plan. Go and get some good young players that of good value, which you can develop and so on. They're going to, if they were to go down as an example, they're not going to, but they could sell those players that they've bought for double easily because they performed in the Premier League. There's not so many of them that have enhanced their reputations, and then they also went and got a leader in Granit Xhaka. When you say it, it's so obvious. Why are clubs not doing this? We spoke about Fulham. Identify some good young talent. You don't have to spend the sort of money that Sunderland did. You can still find players relatively cheap, but there's good players out there for good values. They need to stop flipping players for cheap values and then selling them and reinvesting. And that's the key: reinvest. And that's what teams aren't doing. And Sunderland did an unbelievable job at that.
Well, your point about leaders is Brentford with Jordan Henderson, right? Like again,
Yeah.
go and get an older player, steady head. Interestingly, Sunderland are 17-10, Everton are 17-10. So actually, they're not heavy favourites. They're both the bookies don't know what to do with this one. Uh,
I know what to do with this one.
Me too. Yeah, I'm pretty comfortable going with the Sunderland win, and I'm going to go.
Mm.
I'm going to go 2-1 to Sunderland.
So I agree with the bookies. I've gone for 1-0. I think
Okay.
this is a game which Everton will be desperate not to lose. Have just been a bit rocky, haven't they? Of late, Everton. The fans have got on the back a little bit. I think they'll go there for a point, and I think they'll get it.
Well, it sounds like a weekend. If we're right, a weekend full of goals, no doubt full of drama. Uh, we have 3 minutes to go through our £5 challenges and our bankers of the week, which we've already done. So just to refresh that my banker of the week is Newcastle, yours is Manchester United, which feels slightly risky, but we'll go with it. And you have gone with your £5 challenge. What have you done?
I've gone for a fourfold. I've gone for Arsenal, Man United, Newcastle, and Chelsea, and that pays £56.13.
So I suggest that people take yours rather than mine because I've gone Arsenal, Chelsea, Newcastle. Basically £25 from a fiver, £24.50 to be precise. Yeah, I've just gone a little bit more risk averse. But if I was looking to add a little bit of value, I think you're right. I think Aston Villa is an interesting one to add to that. And like you say, if you can be on it this weekend and uh, be close to as the games happen, you could get a freeze, get a whatever, get a cash out. I think there's some real value in it this weekend if you can. even Fulham at home are 5-6.
Yeah,
Crystal Palace at the evens, Brentford at nearly 3-1. If you get it right this weekend, you're going to do well.
I'm gonna be having a couple of other bets, and so one of them is going to be Newcastle most shots and most corners as well, but also probably going to have a double on Newcastle and Villa because I think that will. I can see both of those coming in pretty comfortably.
Yeah, well, if you just double alone would give you, well, nearly 7-1 on that
Yeah,
double.
I think there's a lot of value. So last week as well, I had Burnley to win most shots, most corners, and it was 150-1. And I'm thinking the same with Villa against Liverpool. Like Villa battered Man City for large periods of that game,
Yeah.
and could do the same to Liverpool as well. So there's a few here with most shots and stuff that I'm going to be looking at.
Awesome. Thank you, Fran. Again, second week on the trot. We've had to rage through that, but where can people find us? How can they reach out and touch us?
So yeah, I don't know about touching us. You might get done for that, but to listen to us, we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. If you want to get in touch with us on social media, we are on Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok.
Awesome. Fran, amazing work. Looking forward to going over that next week when we find out how we got on. Have a great weekend, mate. I hope your team wins for you as well, by the way. Good luck, everybody.
I'm going as well, so I hope they do too.
Enjoy. Take care.